Retirement Lifestyle Show is here to tell you it's not too late to take control and achieve your goals. Today, we're going to give you what you need to hear before the end of the year so you are more prepared and on track to close the year out with success. I'm your co host, Adrian Nicholson, and the first part of this episode will be about reflect and reset. Ask yourself these important questions: what went well this year? What needs improvement? What do you want to focus on next year? And what were your goals at the start of this year? This is important. You need to take the time today when you're listening to this podcast to answer these questions. By doing this now, it gives you a head start so you can enter next year with clarity, focus, momentum, instead of waiting for the calendar year to change and starting from zero. So I think this is just a great place to start in the podcast by, again, answer these questions today. What went well this year? What needs improvement? What do you want to focus on more next year? And what were the goals that you had at the start of this year, and reevaluate them and evaluate how you did. Next, I'm going to talk about embrace and deal with change. And this is a huge one. Change is inevitable, as we know, and some of it is completely outside of your control, whether it's the stock market, new laws, regulations, even more relationship where it comes to family or friends dynamics. These things can also really impact how we are as a person. So let's talk about this. Change is inevitable, and some of it completely outside of your control. It could be the stock market, new laws or regulations, or even shifts in family or friend dynamics. Then there is change that comes from you, things within your control. Maybe it's focusing on your health, adjusting to retirement, or starting something new like a job, school, or business. All these things come with a lot of changes. So life keeps moving, and the key is learning how to adapt to both kinds of change. The question is not whether change will happen, it's how you'll respond when it does. That's where mindset makes the difference. How do you deal with and embrace change? You have to be an adaptive thinker. This is someone who quickly adjusts to unexpected situations and finds positive ways to respond. Why this matters is it helps you bounce back from setbacks, solve problems more creatively, and handle change with less stress and more confidence. This can help you with retirement, in your career, school, even in relationships. So this is the real big importance of why being an adaptive thinker can help you deal with any of the changes that are going on in your life in a positive way. Now we're going to move on to some technical finance topics, and this is not specific investment advice, but something you should consider and learn more about. So we're going to talk about portfolio check-ins and rebalance. This is another good time where you need to look back at this year. How did the market and the economy affect you? And how did your portfolio handle tariffs, geopolitical events, and earnings when it comes to what companies are reporting as far as the revenues and earnings in the news? What you can do is this. Bring your allocation back to your target mix. This is specifically when it comes to the stocks, bond, and cash part of your portfolio. Depending on how your portfolio performed this year, a common one people know about is the 60-40, where I'm 60% in stocks, 40% in bonds. Well, depending on what the markets do, you might be 70% of stocks, 30% in bonds. So you might want to reevaluate to see if that's something that you want to continue going to next year, or if you want to make adjustments today to get your allocation back within a level of comfort that you're comfortable with when it comes to investing. How you can do this is trim oversized holdings. For example, one stock that grew too large in your portfolio, if they have a positive earnings report, that stock could become even a bigger portion of your portfolio. In reverse, if that stock comes out with bad earning news and goes down and its stock price goes down, then that could negatively impact your portfolio and cause you a lot of stress. This is where you check in with your portfolio and rebalance where it comes to allocating and trimming certain holdings in your portfolio. You have to also be aware of the tax consequences before you sell, especially in taxable accounts. We'll get back into that later on in this next section, which is called end of year tax strategies. This is where we're going to think about smart tax moves that you can make with your money before the year end. A common one that we deal with a lot is contributing to a 529 plan before a year end. It can help lower your tax bill while funding education. This could also, in the future, be converted into a Roth. You also have the ability to update and change who the beneficiary is. So there's a lot of built-in flexibility with this type of investment account while saving for education, while lowering your tax bill, which is a win-win-win situation, which we definitely like when it comes to financial planning. Next, like I mentioned previously, tax loss harvesting. If you have investments in taxable account with losses, you might sell to realize the loss, offset capital gains, and even deduct up to $3,000 of net losses against your ordinary income each year. You have more that you can do, but you can only deduct that $3,000. But you can carry losses forward into next year and use that to lower your tax bill, which is a great thing that you can do with a negative situation that happened. But again, you want to make the investment decision first before the tax decision. What I mean by this, if you have an investment that's a really good investment, but the timing wasn't right and the investment went down in value, you might not want to solely sell it because you want to take that loss and lower your tax income if it really is a good investment for the long term. So this is where the investment decision is more important than the tax decision in this case. Next, focus on withdrawals and income planning. Require a minimum distribution, which needs to happen April 1 of the year after you turn 73. After that, you have to take your required minimum distributions before December 31st every year. Because if you're subject to a required minimum distribution, confirm that it's completed before the year end. Because if it's not, it can trigger a very hefty penalty as high as 25% of the shortfall under current law. So this is something also that you should think about and plan for today and not wait to the last minute. Additional things that you should consider in this category of withdrawals and income planning: review expected income for next year and plan withdrawals accordingly. Consider tax brackets, Social Security timing, pension streams, and how withdrawals affect Medicare premiums or Social Security taxation. This is where scenario planning is vital. Scenario planning now avoids surprises in the new year. This is where financial planning really shines. You go through all these situations and see what the outcomes are to see if you're making the smartest financial decision while also being tax conscious to save you more money. You can also review your spending trends this year. Did any categories creep up, like travel, healthcare, utilities? Did inflation bite more than expected this year? These are all scenarios you can run now in your plan where you can carry that momentum very strongly in the new year and finish this year strong. Next, this is one I like a lot and a very simple one that gets a lot of attention and it's easy for you to start with. Build up an emergency saving. Check your emergency fund. Good rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months of expenses depending on your situation. The last category is update documents and coverage. Make sure everything's up to date. Review beneficiaries on IRAs, 401ks, and insurance policies. Review estate documents. These are your trusts, wills, power of attorney, and healthcare directives. Revisit certain insurance needs that you may have. If your life is changing like we talked about, maybe you want to take a look at life insurance, long-term care, liability insurance, and see and check these renewal dates and premiums that change in the new year. That could change in the new year. Again, it's not too late to finish strong. Take a few hours before December 31st to review your goals, review your plan, rebalance where needed, and reassess. If you appreciate this episode, please subscribe and share with someone who needs a gentle nudge to get the new year ready. Own the next chapter of your retirement lifestyle with purpose, peace, and control today, not tomorrow. Thanks for listening to Retirement Lifestyle Show.
Schedule a conversation with Roshan, Adrian, or Eric today at retirementlifestyleshow.com. Roshan and Eric are certified financial planner practitioners. They, along with Adrian, are investment advisor representatives and serve clients across the U.S. with financial planning and investment advice through Arete Wealth. If you found this show helpful, gained knowledge, or enjoyed the time you spent with us, tell your friends and leave us a 5-star review. This will help others discover the show. To access our show notes, to download any of the tools mentioned in today's podcast, To ask us a question or to schedule a conversation, go to retirementlifestyleshow.com. All opinions expressed by podcast hosts and guests are solely their own. While based on information they believe is reliable, neither Arate Wealth nor its affiliates warrants its completeness or accuracy, nor do their opinions reflect the opinion of Arate Wealth. This podcast is for general informational purposes only and should not be regarded as specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Before making any decisions, consult a professional. The show hosts offer investment advice through Arate Wealth Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor, and securities through Arate Wealth Management, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC, and NFA. Finally, our music is The Chance by Jason Shaw in Audionautics. It's part of the YouTube audio library, and it's licensed under a Creative Commons license. I am Ray Voices. Thank you for listening.